Are you looking for a way to help your brick-and-mortar business drive more traffic and increase your sales? Look no further than the Receipt Paper Podcast. In this podcast, Joanne and Kyle provide their sage advice on how to make your brick-and-mortar store the hottest spot in town. Whether you're just launching a new business or trying to grow an existing one, these informative episodes will leave you inspired. In each episode, Joanne and Kyle take on a different topic related to running a successful business. They offer practical tips based on their own experience as owners of multiple brick-and-mortar locations. So whatever challenges you're facing, they have actionable advice for you. From finding a location and executing your build-out, to merchandising and customer experience, to sales and marketing, Joanne and Kyle have you covered. With helpful advice from these experienced entrepreneurs, you are sure to learn how to increase your sales and have your business running out of receipt paper in no time. Let's dive right in.
Hello and welcome to the Receipt Paper Podcast, episode number 27, Cracking the Startup Cost Code. I am so excited about today's episode. Whether you are opening a cafe, a boutique, a gym, or any other brick and mortar venture, understanding the startup costs that go into your vision is a crucial one. So in this episode, I'm going to help you navigate those financial waters of starting your physical business by outlining exactly what to consider in your startup cost budget, how to estimate those costs, and tips for creating your budget. Before we dive in, I do have a free resource for you that goes along with this episode. So it is our business plan template. If you don't have it already, inside the template is an outline of the exact budget cheat sheet that I'm going to be walking you through line by line today. So if you haven't downloaded this yet, it's a resource we talk about a lot, but I want you to go download this now so that you can follow along with me as you listen to this episode. So hop over to the show notes at masterbrickandmortar.com/27 and scroll down to where you see links from this episode. And at the very top, you will see one that says the free download budget cheat sheet and business plan template. So I know you are absolutely going to love this template as a business planning resource. So go ahead and download it now so that we can follow along with each other. All right, before we dive in today, I did want to mention our sponsor, Tap Mango. Tap Mango is our preferred rewards and loyalty program. It's one that we have used for all 5 years that we have been in business as a brick and mortar business. It helps us build loyalty and raving fans. It helps us text and email our customers to get them back into the store. And it is one that we love and our customers do as well. Tap Mango is offering a free demo so that they can show you the program in action. And you can register for that at masterbrickandmortar.com/tapmango. All right, friends, are you ready to dive in? Grab a pen or pencil and a piece of paper and download that resource. Today is going to be one that you're going to want to take notes. So to kick things off, I want to start by defining what startup costs are and why they're so important. So startup costs are the expenses that you need to cover before your business starts generating revenue. So what is it going to cost to get your business open, to get the doors of your business open? So what expenses are you going to need to cover until you are actually making a profit? So maybe at this point in time, you're in this vision phase, you have an idea, but you don't know how to get there. Well, this is going to help you figure out what financially it is going to take you to get the doors of your business open and all the way until you are making enough money to pay yourself and your business expenses. So today I'm going to walk you through the cost to consider and how to estimate these costs. But one thing that many people often forget to include is a budget to cover expenses once the doors of your business are already open while you're still in that growing phase. So I wanted to mention this first. Now, I've seen businesses open with a bang and instantly be covering their expenses and payroll, and they are off to the races from day one. And that's incredible. And I hope that for all of you. But a lot of businesses are a bit slower and they take time to grow, which is completely natural. So if that's you, that is okay. Know that brick and mortar business can take up to a year and a half to really, really see that true growth and true profitability. So this is something you need to consider. It's natural and it's okay. But during that time and that growth phase, how are you going to cover your expenses and pay yourself? So, the number of months of expenses that you should be able to cover as a financial safety net can vary depending on what your personal circumstances. Are you still working a full 9 to 5 job, or are you all in? Are you in your business? Do you have, savings? Are you needing to pay yourself? Everybody has a different situation, but the common rule of thumb here in recommendation is to have what you could consider emergency fund that can cover 3 to 6 months worth of your expenses. This is something even once your business is profiting, you would still want to keep this emergency fund set aside. There may be a rainy day that comes where you have a slow season. There may be a pandemic like COVID. Let's hope not, fingers crossed, but that did happen. And, having those expenses set aside for a time period can really offset some of that stress and, quite frankly, keep some people from going out of business when things go wrong. With brick and mortar business, it can be a little more up and down, and you are going to have some phenomenal months and you're going to have some slower months. And in the beginning, especially, it's going to take you some time to figure that out. I think it wasn't until our third year in business to where now we can, at this point, we know, okay, we're coming into the holidays. It's going to be our biggest time of the year. But we know when we get to the summer months like August and September, those are our slowest months of the year. So now we plan for that. But it's hard to plan for that when you're just starting out, right? So it's good to have that 3 to 6 month emergency fund set aside. So as you figure that out, your expenses are covered. Okay, so I hope that you hopped over and downloaded the business plan template. Inside that template, I want you to scroll down to where you see a budget cheat sheet. It should look like an Excel spreadsheet table, and there should be a list of expenses and costs. I'm going to be diving into these line by line. So, as you go through this, I want you to be making note of which one of these costs for you are going to be a one-time cost and which are going to be reoccurring costs. Some of these costs are just going to be a one-time cost. Once your doors of your business are open, you're never going to have to pay them again. And some of the other costs are going to be your monthly reoccurring costs. So these are going to be costs that, the second month that you're in business, once you're open, you're still going to be paying these costs. So number one, and these aren't in any particular order, I'm just going down the list here. So the first one is accounting services. Now, in the beginning, if you don't have a ton of expenses, or maybe you are more comfortable doing things like bookkeeping, you may not have to pay as much of an expense here, but as your business grows and you have more and more expenses coming in, it is highly recommended that you have a bookkeeper, that you have someone doing your year-end taxes. So whatever that is going to look like for you, take that into consideration here. So this is most likely a reoccurring cost, or it could be a one-time cost, but this is going to be the first one, your accounting services, what all it's going to take. Some people hire an accountant to even just help them evaluate what taxes need to be paid in the beginning to get their sales tax certificate set up. Although I have to tell you, it's very easy to get your sales tax permit created yourself. So I recommend doing that on your own. But take these all into consideration. What are your accounting services costs going to be? All right, next is advertising and promotion for your grand opening. I'm a big advocate in actually advertising and marketing before the doors of your business open. That way, on day one, you actually have customers in your business. So, what types of advertising and marketing and promotion are you going to be doing? You're likely going to be getting things like maybe yard signs or flyers, or perhaps it's going to be balloons, or maybe you're getting an ad in the newspaper. Maybe you're sending out direct mail. You could be on the radio, that you could be doing Facebook advertisements. There's so many different things to do here, and depending on which industry you're in, one might work better than the other. But I want you to go ahead and estimate those costs. Go ahead and look into how much would it cost me to get 20 yard signs? How much would it cost me to get a giant grand opening balloon? How much would it cost me to send out a direct mail campaign, and estimate those costs so that you already have those set aside. This is something that I see a lot of people will blow their entire budget on their build out, and it winds up going over. And then all of a sudden, when it comes to marketing, they don't have a budget for it. And this is not a place that you want to be in. You want to have a budget set aside for the marketing of your business, and you don't want to touch it. You want it to be there for you when you need it. So go ahead and estimate those costs and set aside a budget for that. Next up, moving right along, is the architectural design. Now, not everyone is going to need to spend money on architectural design. If you have a second generation unit, which basically means a unit that has already been occupied, there's already walls and plumbing and electrical, and maybe all you need to do is slap up some paint and build some shelving or a sales counter. You don't have to do an extensive build out. You probably don't need to hire someone to design the space. You can probably design the space yourself. Now, if you're going into a brand new unit, white box unit per se, where there's no plumbing, there's no electrical, there is, it's just a giant empty space. Now, you're going to need to design that space. Somebody's going to have to draw up the designs so that you can take those down to your building permit department and get that approved so that you can get that plumbing permit and the electrical permit. And it's a much more extensive process. So depending on what type of build out you are doing, this is an expense that you may incur. And a lot of people, when they say, I really want to cut my budget down, my startup costs, well, this is one that I would look at then. If you do not want to have high startup costs and you just want to get the doors of your business open and running, and you don't have extensive build out needs, then I specifically would tell you to go look for a second generation unit. Look for a unit that is already built similar to how you imagine your storefront looking, so that you don't have all those build out expenses. So architectural design is that, and most likely just a one-time expense, not a recurring one. The next one is just cash on hand. Typically, if you are taking cash transactions, you're going to want cash in your till, probably around $250, $300, divided up in, ones, fives, tens, 20s, that kind of thing. And then if you have any other reasons to have cash on hand, you know your business best, go ahead and estimate that there. Next is going to be decorating. So this is the decor costs, like what's going to go on the walls, what kind of furniture are you going to have? Are you going to have some chairs, some tables? Are you going to have, displays for your products? Are you going to need any decorative or retail display items? I would put that in this category. These can be typically a one-time expense. Now, I always add things in throughout the year, seasonal displays and things like that. So you may want a small budget to add to your decor expenses throughout the year. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but it is something you may want to budget for. Next up is your deposits for utilities. So go ahead and look into your area and what the utilities costs and requirements are. Sometimes if it's a brand new business, there is a deposit required for things like gas or electric or even internet. So go ahead and estimate those costs so that you know exactly how it is, which means call those people, pick up the phone, tell them, hey, I'm looking to open a business in this zip code. Can you give me some estimates? That kind of thing. Next is equipment. If you have any equipment, let's say like your POS, your receipt, if you need a printer, if you need equipment for your services. Some viewers out there selling service-based businesses where you need maybe gym equipment or you maybe need tanning equipment. So that's going to be this cost. This could be something that you just purchase all up front as your startup costs, or you could also plan to buy 50% up front, and then I'm going to, as my business grows, I'm going to add more 25% more equipment down the road and another 25% when I hit this number. So there's different ways to look at it, and this is a cost that you can grow. Like when we as you most likely know, we have a business of sensory deprivation float tanks. When we first started, we started with just one tank, and we waited until that tank got occupied and full and was busy all the time. And we, had people calling, they wanted to float 2 people at a time, and we had the demand was there. And then we added in another tank. So, you don't feel like you have to have all of your equipment from day one. You can grow as your business grows, but you need a budget for it, right? So budget for it in your startup costs and for what you need down the road. Okay, moving right along, estimated taxes. So it's a good idea to just understand at a high level, if I'm bringing in this much money, this is what my estimated taxes are going to be, so that you understand what that's going to be and it's not a surprise to you. So this is why I do recommend talking with an accountant, a CPA, to understand what your taxes are going to look like. That's so specific, person by person. If you have a W-2 job, if you don't, it can look so different for everyone. So go ahead and talk to someone so that this isn't a big surprise for you when it comes time to do your year-end taxes. There's also going to be sales tax. Obviously, this is a tax that you're going to obtain from the customer if you're selling products. If you're services, you may not require taxes, but you can look that up for your specific area. But you're going to want to have something set up for how you're going to pay those. But you should be taking in that exact amount and paying that exact amount. So this isn't something you need to budget for, sales tax. You just need to have a software and system in place to collect that from your customer and then pay it, if that makes sense. Next up is hiring costs. So, how are you going to hire someone? Are you going to train them for 2 weeks before your business is even open? Are you going to give them some sort of hiring bonus? What is their payroll going to look like? And what are those costs going to be? Go ahead and budget for that payroll cost, whether that's paying for someone else or yourself. What are those costs? And yes, I want you to pay yourself. So I actually think that is further down here under salaries as well, but hiring costs could be someone else. Salaries, let's think more of ourselves. But yes, what are the costs that you're going to incur payroll wise? Next is insurance. You need insurance. Everybody needs insurance. Landlords often require insurance. So, but go ahead and get estimates for that. Based on your lease requirements, you may have certain requirements for insurance, but you can go ahead and get started on what that cost may look like. I've seen people paying $100 a month. I've seen people paying $300 a month. So those costs can vary, but make sure it's budgeted in. Next is legal costs. So some people need to hire a lawyer because their business is very legal heavy. Maybe there's a lot of legalities within your industry that you want to stay on top of. Maybe there are, waivers and disclaimers that you really need well written. You may be hiring someone for that. I always recommend, it never hurts to have somebody legally look over your lease before you sign it, especially if you're looking at a 5 or 10-year lease. So consider these costs, what kind of legal costs you have, and go ahead and get estimates for that. Licenses and permits. So these aren't usually too extreme. I guess I shouldn't say that. Some states can have much higher licensing and permit costs, but go ahead and look at this cost. I always recommend calling your building's permit department, saying, I want to open a local business. I'm considering it. If I'm looking at this unit, it's completely empty. I'm going to need plumbing, electrical, all of this. Can you give me an idea of what permits I'm going to need and what the cost of those permits are going to be and how much for those licenses? So go ahead and go through that process and start getting the estimates of what that's going to look like, so nothing jumps up out at you later and you're not surprised by anything. But there is going to be a cost that you incur for some of these licenses and permits. If you want to put banners up at the front of your business, typically there's a permit or sign fee to do so. So things like that, don't forget to think about either. If you are selling food, obviously there is a health and food permit. So, there's all types of things that you have to look into based on your business. There's health spa permits. There are all types of them out there. So call your local city, figure out what your business is going to need, what permits, and what the costs are going to be. Next up is office supplies. So things like receipt paper, staplers, scissors, pencils, clipboards. We all know what this means. I have a small budget set out for that, and you know what your business will require. Print design. So I specifically put the design in here because it's a cost people don't always think about. They want to go get print materials like brochures and flyers and why am I going blank? Trifolds and yard signs and all types of different print, right? But typically you need to pay somebody to design these for you. So like a graphic designer to design these costs, that can be an expense. So just consider what that expense is going to be. Some print companies will design things for you as well. So that could just be something you consider as you vet that out. So the print materials, which is right underneath here, is what I just said, like your flyers, if you are getting grand opening flyers, for example, or if you're going to have brochures talking about your products or services, or if you want to have just coupons that you pass out when you're out and about, or business cards, anything like that. All of these different print materials that you need as a business owner. What is that going to cost? They can add up. I will tell you, this is a cost that adds up pretty quickly, but you don't have to start with a super high quantity, right? So you can start with 250, 500 brochures. You don't need $2,000 on hand. Honestly, I would recommend starting with a smaller amount, as you might find things are going to change. Customers are asking you lots of questions, and you need to add it onto your brochure. Something sticks out to you that you want to put on your business card, things like that. So don't get a super high quantity in the beginning. You can start lower on this, and this can be something that you add in like as a recurring budget here. Okay, next up is your remodeling and build out. So earlier we talked about the design, architectural design. Well, this remodeling and build out is how much is it going to cost to actually execute this build out? You could be working with a general contractor to do this. You could be hiring just a couple of contractors to come and paint your walls and build you a sales counter. You could be doing this all yourself. And so really the cost here is just the materials like paint and wood. That's kind of Kyle and I's go-to. We like to do it all ourselves and cut down the cost as much as we can. That's what we're about here. So, when we look at our remodeling and build out costs, we're typically taking a lot of that cost on. And this is another area that I will tell you, if you're looking to reduce your startup costs, if you can take some of this build out and remodeling off, out of paying someone to do it and doing it yourself, or, grabbing your friends or your mom. I had my aunts and uncles there painting and, working with me. So if you can do something like that, that's going to help you save a lot of money in the beginning. So consider something to consider. This is often can be a really big expense. I've seen people's build outs cost $40,000 all the way up to $300,000 if they're paying, um, for an extensive, huge build out, but it varies. This is also one where I recommend you get multiple quotes. So once you have the location that you are going to be in, or that you are going to pursue securing a lease in, then I want you to go get multiple quotes. Don't just go get one quote, because this quotes vary so much. I was just talking to a student in Brick-and-Mortar Academy, and she was blown by one of the quotes that she just received, and she's going out and getting another one. So I'm really glad she's doing that, because they can be all over the place. And I think she's going to be mighty surprised by how different the next quote is. So, all right, next up, rent deposits. So often when you're renting a space, you will have to pay that first and the last month's rent. So something to consider within your budget, that you won't get that cost back, but it's got to be paid in the beginning. Next is salary. So I mentioned this earlier when we were talking about hiring costs, but salaries, are you paying yourself a full salary? Are you paying someone else a full salary? I want you to pay yourself. You shouldn't be waiting 2 years into your business to even be paying yourself. So you have to budget that in order to pay yourself. So pay yourself something that's worthwhile. Don't just wait until your business is doing great to pay yourself. You are working hard and you deserve it. So budget it in and make sure you're getting paid. Signs. All right. Signs can actually be a decent part of your startup budget. Commercial storefront signs can be expensive. I've seen them go all the way up to, $10,000, $20,000. I recommend looking at some signage that is not that crazy expensive. But channel storefront signs, especially right now, we just did a remodel and we were looking at some, and they've gone up a little bit. So, but signs can really vary depending on your location and what kind of signs you want. So if you're looking at window graphics, what types of graphics are you going to want on your windows, or do you even need any at all? What signage do you need? Do you want an A-frame sign sitting in front of your business? Do you have a monument sign that you need to direct people into their shopping center so that they can see that you're there? Look at all the different signage. It will add up. So this is a cost that you should evaluate. Now, some sign companies do have payment plans and options. So just something to consider if you are looking to kind of offset some of those startup costs. Just ask those questions from the company. Next up is software. So this is going to be like your POS software costs. Chat Mango, for example, our loyalty and rewards program would be a month-to-month software cost. We use a booking tool called Zenoti at our business. So if you need any types of booking tools, any types of software, if you use QuickBooks to do your accounting, if you've got email provider subscriptions, those would be a software cost, all types of stuff. So go down, do some brainstorming. What types of softwares does your business need, and go ahead and estimate those. Starting inventory. So this is the inventory that you need to open your business. If you are a product-based business, you've got to have products in your store when you open, right? So I don't want you to go crazy here. Some people have this idea that they need a ton of inventory, but then all their cash is sitting in inventory that's sitting in the back of their store not being sold. So I highly recommend that you start low and slow. Figure out what customers are buying, what their volume is. You're going to figure out which products are selling, like cupcakes and other stuff that's maybe just sitting there. And so don't go crazy in the beginning. Get a smaller amount. You can replace it. You are going to be buying more as the sales come in. And then once you figure out the demand, then you can add more. So don't feel like you need it. Insane inventory. With that being said, you do need enough. You don't want to run out of everything on day one, right? So go ahead and consider, if I have X amount of customers coming to my business a day, let's say I'm hoping for 20 customers a day, and what are my most popular products? Can I fulfill those orders? So you will figure it out as you go. Just don't start too high there. All right, unanticipated expenses, just have a little bit of fluff here. I just want you to have something. Things are going to pop up. You may need extra permits. You may all of a sudden need to hire an electrician because you need to change an outlet. Something random might pop up. So just have something set aside for those. They will pop up and they will happen. Vehicles, depending on your business, you may need a vehicle for delivery, whatever your needs may be. Make sure you consider that. Website and SEO. This is typically, this can be a one-time upfront cost, or if you have somebody managing your SEO month to month like we do, this is a reoccurring expense for us that we just have somebody manage. And other. Of course, this may not be every single thing in your startup cost, but what else is there that your specific business needs and requires? Just take some time to consider it and make sure you include it in here. So you would basically take this entire list and add it all together. And then that would equal your total startup cost, what it's going to cost you to get the doors of your business open. And then if there were any reoccurring expenses, then you would want to take those and look at, okay, what is my month-to-month reoccurring expenses going to be? And there may be some things that you need to add in. All right. I hope that was helpful. Sometimes it's just helpful to walk through these things and really think them out on what all they are. But I do have some additional tips for you today. So hang with me here. These are some good ones. So first, start with a detailed business plan. So now that you have the business plan template, you should have a comprehensive business plan in place. So this is going to really help you brainstorm as you create your business plan on anything that you may be missing here. This plan will outline your goals and your strategies, your target market, your potential location, revenue projections. So this is going to really help you as you start estimating your budget. So take the time to create a business plan. Next is do the research for realistic cost estimates. So I know what it's like. I used to just kind of throw down an expense like, oh, okay, signage, $2,000. But then when it became time and I actually called the signage company, it was more like $6,000. And I was like, oh, crap. So take the time, pick up the phone, get some estimates, more than one, and don't rely solely on just our, your rough estimates, the JoJo estimates. Do your due diligence and obtain quotes and pricing. Next is do consider that contingency fund. I talked about this earlier because it's so important, but it is really wise to allocate that 3 to 6 months and have it on hand from day one. If something goes wrong, this is why I hate when I see businesses going out of business in their first year because they didn't have a contingency plan for if it took them longer to grow than expected. And it's natural and it's okay to have a business that takes a little bit to grow, but you got to have the contingency fund because all these startup costs are going to go down the drain into waste if you don't have that contingency fund to carry you through those tough times. Next is prioritize your expenses. So my biggest thing that I will say is start simple, get fancy later. Sometimes these expenses and startup costs, you don't need all of them. Do you need that fancy waterfall in your build out costs? No. Do you need the $10,000 hardwood floors or can you go with the $1,000 hardwood floors? Prioritize these things and really consider, are all these expenses necessary to get the doors of my business open? Because some of them are not, and some of them are going to set you up for failure if you're spending too much money to open the doors of your business and aren't even bringing in cash flow yet. Sorry, I'll get off my soapbox there. Careful. Oh, you do want to overestimate. I always go higher. I'd rather you have a little fluff, a little more added on, and then wind up being way under budget than being over. Next tip is monitor your cash flow. So as you start, when it comes time to start that build out and you've got the keys to your location and it's like, go, 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 all of a sudden you're going to be that credit card that is going to be flying out there. It's like, okay, software time, okay, build out time, okay, paint time, okay, permit time, okay, all these things I need to buy inventory and all, like, it's like craziness. And all of a sudden your bank account's going down, 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 and you haven't even opened yet. You're not even spending any, making any money yet. And it's kind of a scary time. So I want you to pay attention during that. Even if you have a solid budget and the budget there in place, you still need to keep an eye on it. Oh no, we just went over on the inventory budget. We need to stop right here, right now, before we buy any more inventory and wait till we have sales coming in. Keep an eye out for that. You just want to keep an eye on it. Okay, use budgeting tools or softwares. There are softwares out there to help you track your finances, like QuickBooks, things like that. So review and adjust regularly so your budget is not set in stone. So if you're putting a budget together today, as you go throughout the process and you look at locations and you determine different products or services that you want to do, your budget will change. So go and update it. Don't think that this is just a one and done exercise. This is something that is going to be flexible and that you're going to adapt as things change. And lastly, I want you to stay disciplined if you can here. I know, trust me, I know from experience that this can be hard, but stick to it as closely as possible. So try to avoid those unnecessary expenses and stick to what you decide. When we opened our first business, we had already exceeded our budget and the doors weren't even open yet. And it was so hard, but we said no more. We're done. We're done spending until we swipe a credit card and start making sales in this place. I'm not spending $1 more. And it was so hard to do that, but it did help us because we weren't in a bad position when we opened. So stay disciplined, my friend. I believe in you. You can do it. It is hard, but stick to your guns and know that it is worth your while. Okay, I hope today was helpful. If you are just starting out in your business journey, you're just starting on your business plan and your expenses and your startup costs, and you want some more guidance along the way, then join us in Brick-and-Mortar Academy. I absolutely love helping people go from this vision and business plan phase all the way to opening your doors. And that's exactly what we do inside of the Academy. Is I help walk you through everything you need to know, from your build out to finding a location to how to design your space to marketing and everything in between. So check out Brick-and-Mortar Academy in the show notes. You can find that at masterbrickandmortar.com/27. And again, don't forget to download the business plan template if you didn't already, like I recommended. If you have questions, I'm always available on DM and on Instagram at masterbrickandmortar. Shoot me a hello. Would love to meet you, introduce yourself. But I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I can't wait to see you next week. Bye for now. Have a great week, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in to the Receipt Paper Podcast, your go-to source of information for starting and growing a successful brick-and-mortar business. Subscribe to hear future episodes and share this content so that more people can access these valuable insights. If you're looking for more resources to help you with your brick-and-mortar business, visit masterbrickandmortar.com or follow us on Instagram at masterbrickandmortar. Thanks again for listening to the Receipt Paper Podcast. We'll see you in the next episode.